Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I am Gunnar Rios, and welcome to another episode of Gamers Podcast. I am joined tonight by Blanca Kong, Mr. Esoteric, and Mr. Hotto Wolf, the usual suspects. And what we got for you tonight is another hot take episode. Um, we like doing this. It's fun. Sparks good conversation, and it's kind of got that RNG kind of Wheel of Fortune real feel to it. So we're bringing you another one. There's not much intro to this. It's all random. I don't know what's going to happen. Most of us don't know the topics on this wheel. So, without further ado, let's get our first spin. See what our first hot take is.
All right, so let's see what we got.
Make it something good.
Grinding isn't gameplay, it's filler.
Bullshit. Grinding is gameplay.
Coming in hot. Sheesh. No. Yeah, I have to agree with. Grinding is the gameplay. Now, if you, I might be already going off on a tangent. So if I am already, but that's the nature of the beast here. You can criticize the way you grind, because when we mean grinding is typically associated with JRPGs and to a certain lesser extent Western RPGs, but mostly JRPGs. And some JRPG grinds are more monotonous and mind-numbing than others. So if you're talking about how you grind, there are certain games, especially now, more RPGs. One of them that comes to mind is Metaphor, ReFantasio. It's made by Atlas, so it's got that Persona feel to it. The way they do grinding in their games is very done. So traditionally, if you go to an older RPG, you have to fight the same monster. Even if you one-shot him, you still have to enter the battle, go into the battle zone, fight him, and then get your results screen, and it takes time, which makes the grinding a lot more tedious and mind-numbing. But the way Metaphor does it is if you are higher level, you will attack him, you will kill him instantly, because if you enter the battle, you're more than likely going to do that anyway, and you would still get the EXP, money, and any rewards that you would have got if you fought the full battle. So that's a better way to do grinding than traditionally what we know as grinding. We all play Pokemon. That's kind of like the monotonous grind, at least with older, that this hot take is kind of referring to. So TLDR, then I'll pass it on. No.
So before anybody else goes, just so you know, Gunner, I hear about 92% of what you're saying, and then there's an 8% rate where like you cut out, and so like a syllable or a whole word would get cut out of your like statement. It's happened like 10 times already throughout that entire
Really
piece.
Yeah, I was
So
just about
I don't know if you want to like reset something, or I just wanted to let you know before we can kind of continue on.
All right,
But
so
I got the gist of what you said. So
okay, okay, it might be
Yeah.
it could be Discord or whatever. So okay, I'll do that. I'll let you guys give your opinions while I'll do that.
All right, who wants to go next?
My opinion is that it is gameplay. If you are playing a game that is stats based or building your character or your avatar, however you want to call it, or you're trying, or for practice reasons or to get better at something, grinding is a part of the game. It is not a filler. It is a part of the game. I think more people just lack patience and want to get rewarded for little effort. But for me, my personal opinion is grinding is a part of the game, if that game is that type of game that you have to grind. Well, most video games you grind, no matter how you really look at it. Because I can say grinding in Call of Duty is you grinding EXP to level up your prestige. I can say grinding in fighting games is going into the practice mode to practice your combos. I can say grinding in an RPG is getting the EXP to level up your characters to fight stronger enemies or to be able to progress through the story. Ideally, I guess the grinding would be more on the RPG aspect, but you have to grind in order to get over the hurdle. You have to put in the effort. That's how I look at it. So for me, it is not a filler. It is the gameplay. It is a part of the gameplay.
Yeah,
That's my point.
yeah, I would also have to disagree with this take. I think that unfortunately this take is most likely associated with RPG. Oh, Wolf, there's something in the background. It's like a residual sound that's keep like a crunching sound in your background.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I
no,
know
it's
what it
cool.
is. Hmm.
It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, I think that this take is usually associated with like turn-based RPGs, as Gunnar stated. So it may be foreseen as filler, but it absolutely isn't. And you already made it clear, which makes a lot of sense, Wolf, is that there's grinding in every aspect of gaming. Like for example, Pokemon grinding in Pokemon might be a little, redundant, a little boring at times if you're like in the same grass, going to the same area, fighting a particular Pokemon. If you're EV training, whereas in Ninja Gaiden, you're not so much grinding for stats, but you're grinding for like currency. So it's still a grind nonetheless because essentially you're grinding for that money for a new weapon or like new replenishables and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, there's grinding in every aspect in every game. In some instances, I guess the least grinding would be maybe some like traditional side-scrolling games where it's just from point A to point B. The only thing that you have to overcome is the obstacle itself. But it could also be a grind in the sense that you're losing in the level, so you have to like kind of grind to get better at overcoming the level. Um, Another aspect of it is Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a action RPG. It has RPG elements, and your stats are very, very important when it comes to how you proceed within that game. So, with that being said, there's going to be some heavy grind instances that you're going to have to deal with. Um, if you're one of those players that are like myself who aren't as like evasive as those pro players who can dodge anything or counter everything, um, there's going to be a grind. Like you're going to have to get some point allocations for health. You're going to get it for maybe endurance. There's some point allocation needed for a specific weapon you need to use, or specific skills such as magic and whatnot. So, you know, um, this particular take I disagree with. However, I can understand in certain types of games where it can be perceived as filler, but in actuality, it is gameplay. So, yeah, that's my take with that.
All right, so I didn't get all of that, but I think I got most of it. My brother was asking me some questions. I had to answer him, but
No problem.
um, I can't take a stance with this one personally. I think grinding, for the most part, is a gameplay feature. It is a part of the game, like Wolf was mentioning. But I think there are some games that do it very poorly, and so it could be, like you said, perceived as filler, or it could be labeled as filler, just a way to kind of pad the gameplay, pad the hours played, in order to make the game seem longer than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, it depends. So, like, there's different ways to execute the grinding gameplay feature. Like, grinding can be uh, you killing mobs until you get like the special rare weapon drop or something like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
grinding, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that could also be seen as like, well, this is just a tedious way to kind of make the game longer than it actually is or should be. So I could see why that's an unattractive thing and why someone would label it as filler. Uh, to me, that would just be like, I would just label that as bad game design, because
Mm-hmm.
grinding can be fun, it can be engaging, it can be interesting, but that's up to the designers, the combat designers, to make it so. So it could go either way, in my opinion. I can't take a hard stance either side. I'm leaning to grinding is gameplay, but can sometimes be filler. So I'm kind of on the fence with it. personally, but I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
play as much RPGs as you guys, so my opinion might be flawed in that respect.
No,
No,
I get you.
I
So
wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that it's flawed. Because you understand the gist of like RPGs and whatnot. That traditionally they have the same, even though they're pretty much different in terms of how they are presented. They have the same mechanics, you know, and the same like blueprint when it comes to like grinding. There are instances where there are enemies that drop certain things, they have a percentage drop, and those are optional. So if you want that weapon or that skill, you can fight those enemies till you're blue in the face, and hopefully it drops sooner rather than later. Then there are instances where you run into a wall, so you need to grind in order to like, have some type of exp to overcome whatever obstacle that's preventing you from moving forward. Um, and then they even have like action, not so much action, but
Well, yeah,
I guess
action
mini
grinding
game.
is there. Like for action grinding is like non-turn based games. Like Monster Hunter is a grinding game. That's the premise of Monster Hunter.
I
It's to
mean, you just got
grind.
done playing
Right?
through the Devil May Cry series. You were grinding for
That's
orbs to buy attacks and stuff like
yep.
that. So it's the same
it's a
thing.
grind, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Grinding
a grind.
in
Yeah.
gameplay is defined as just repeating an action in order to gain some sort of benefit. That's all
Correct.
grinding is, right? I was playing
Correct.
Project
Yeah.
Zomboid a few nights ago, and
Mm,
I was just cutting trees down because I'm working on a base. I was
That's grinding.
grinding planks
mm,
in order to build the. So it's
mhm.
like it's the same thing. Grinding just
Yeah.
means repeating something over and over again in order to, gain an advantage or something like that.
Yeah, it's
So
just
Oh,
synonymous with JRPGs, in my
yeah,
opinion. Like when
exactly.
I think
Yeah,
grinding, I think that.
100%.
So,
I was referencing action grinding, but I meant so more so like, the mini games. Like for example, Final Fantasy VII, when you have to build your chocobo, like that's a grind as well. That's what I was trying to refer to. I used the wrong terminology. But
Mm.
there's a grind with that because you had to make chocobos to get the right stats on the chocobo, and then make it another color and things like that to help you with the chocobo races and stuff. So that's what I was
I
mostly
think
referring to.
I think good grinding is when the game requires some of it for you to progress so that it allows the player to understand the mechanics of the game and also allows the player to deal with some, like we learned the other day, friction within the game. Um, but if you are going to go after things that's like, say, the rarest weapons, or I can give an example of where when I played Castlevania, the one on the DS with Soma as the main character, which is, I don't know how I can't remember that
I think
Castlevania because that's my
I
favorite
think
one.
that's Aria of
Symphony of the
Sorrow.
Night.
No,
Is it
Symphony of Night
Symphony
is
of the Night?
Alucard.
No,
yeah, City
it's
Knight's
Alucard.
Alucard.
You're probably talking about
Um,
Aria of Sorrow, or
I think it's Aria of Sorrow.
Portrait of Ruin, and then I forget the other one.
yeah.
It's not Portrait of Ruin. It's that I think it's Aria of Sorrow, but it's the one with Soma, the white hair guy.
Isn't it on
Um,
GBA?
is it GBA or is it DS?
I think it's GBA.
Yeah, Aria of Sorrow, I believe, is Juice Belmont.
Juice Belmont?
Juiced.
What?
The Juiced. What is his name? That's what they call him, Juiced Belmont. He's the one with the red trench coat, and he has the
Give
white
me the
hair.
juice, yeah, brother. Snacks
It's
to Slim Jim.
So
Juste,
it's
whatever.
Aria of Sorrow and Dawn of Sorrow,
Okay, so I was wrong.
right? And I think, well, Dawn of Sorrow is definitely a DS game, I think. So Dawn of Sorrow is a DS game, but Aria of Sorrow is, I think, a Game Boy Advance game. Let me go back.
Yeah, my apologies. Harmony of Dissonance was Juiced or Just Belmont or whatever. Yeah, my bad.
Game Boy Advance. So Aria of Sorrow is Game Boy Advance. Dawn of Sorrow is the DS.
Hmm.
So in Dawn of Sorrow, when you kill an enemy, you can get a spirit from them. And based on what the spirit does, like because every spirit had an ability, and based on what the ability is, the enemy had different percentage rates of dropping. One of the skills that I chased personally was the bat, where he can turn into a bat and fly around the screen. That thing was like a 2% drop from bat type creatures. And to be honest, I paused the game to get that skill. I did not progress further until I found a good area where there's a good amount of bats that would spawn. And I kept killing and grinding and going between screens to respawn them to get the skill. Is the game completely beatable without that skill? 100%. I made that choice as a player to farm the bats or to grind on the bats to get the skill. However, the grinding aspect that the game doesn't escape you from is literally fighting the enemies to gain the skills from them to be able to beat the bosses in the game. So the game is designed where you do have to fight some enemies here and there a few times to get their skill because it's harder to progress the game with zero skills than with some skills. But the skills you choose to grind, I grinded out an enemy that made him allowed him to shoot beams from his hands. That was a low percentage thing too, but I didn't need to do it. I chose to do it. So I think that's the difference there where people want maybe this hot take comes from the point of view of I want the best things that this game has to offer, but I don't want to grind to get it. And then that's when the frustration comes in. But
My response to that person is fuck you. Go play something else.
right, like you have to put in the effort to get it. Like even in Monster Hunter, sometimes I'll make my way all the way to the highest rank and I want to make this armor and they throw in a monster piece of a monster that I did not need to fight whatsoever. The I've never fought. Now I have to go fight that monster, go from low rank and work my way up to whatever rank I'm on, whether it's high rank or master rank, G rank for the, older Monster Hunter fans. Um, to now get that monster on that level so I can get the part from that monster. But in the end of the day, I don't need to make that weapon to play the game and beat the game. I'm choosing to make that weapon to beat the game or play the game, especially on the newer Monster Hunter games. You can make
I
about
think
any weapon
I
and
think
you'll be
those are the
fine.
best games. Like the ones
Hmm.
that grinding is a feature but not a requirement
Yeah.
is perfect. Like
Yeah.
the Souls games are like a great example of that. Like you don't have to grind shit. You could beat that game with like little to nothing if you have the just a player skill and just you can execute flawless gameplay. Like if you could do it, then it's possible, right?
Yeah.
Grinding is a possibility. You can grind and become stronger in certain categories in order to overcome certain challenges that your skill level just isn't high enough to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's
Hmm.
the perfect, that I think is
Hmm.
the best way to have grinding in the game, to make it optional and
Hmm.
possible but not necessarily required,
Yeah. And
and
Yeah.
to
then
have the game, the parts that are required are designed to get you to like the minimum point of whatever the next challenge is. Okay.
yeah, and then you have like the
Mm.
incentivized grinding where you're grinding within a mask of something you want. So like for your example with Castlevania where you're fighting the bats to acquire something that they have, acquire a skill, but you're also not realizing or subconsciously grinding your overall EXP to become stronger. So I like that kind of grind as well because it gives you a mission to fulfill while ultimately fulfilling the main mission, which is to get stronger to navigate the rest of the castle or whatever environment that you're in. So
Yeah, it increases your gameplay because the more you play the game is the more understanding you get from it. And then overall you get better at the game. So
yeah.
I think grinding has more positives. It's not a filler. Next topic.
Agreed.
Next.
Mhm.
Damn, can't look directly at the fucking screen because I get fucking dizzy.
Mhm.
All right. Kickstarter projects often disappoint because scope, scope, scope creep kills them.
What does that mean?
That's what I was gonna ask you guys. I had no idea what it meant,
Scope.
but I thought it would be an
Oh,
important.
I think it means like when they add more and more goals, like they start losing focal point of the game, and they have all these goals that they want to achieve, but because they have these goals, they never get to the act of coming up with a finished video game product.
I agree
That's
100% with this
my
take.
take.
I
Yeah.
Mighty Number Nine is like the most notorious example that I could think of that I was a part of, where Ifune was fired from Capcom, and his Mega Man Legends 3 project got canceled, and so he decided to go make his own company, Concept, something like that, and he decided to make a spiritual successor to Mega Man, Mighty Number Nine, and it was originally supposed to be a Mega Man style game with a new character and new cast and everything. And I remember it's still on my Facebook, because I remember using the background image as the image the concept image that he had put out, and it was this really cool 2D drawing of like this Mega Man like character navigating this Mega Man like stage, and I was like, oh, that looks great, and so I immediately supported it because I believed in him and his vision and the project. Jokes on me. And so what we ended up getting was Mighty Number Nine, which was not a 2D game; it was a 3D game, which they obviously did in order to cut back on development costs. But he already had funds from the Kickstarter divvied up into different projects. Like he wanted to make a animated show, he wanted to make a manga, he wanted to develop merch and toys way before the game was even out. And I'm like, brother, can we get the game first? And then if the game does well, then we could talk about other
Right. That
avenues of,
would have made more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so he
Mm.
did that and the game bombed, and because the game bombed, all the money that he invested into these different categories like the toys and the manga fell flat because the foundation, which was supposed to be the game, fell flat. So everything else crumbled along with it, and that money was just flushed down the toilet instead of going toward the game. And if they had just done that, they probably would have had a much better game. And those other business ventures might have seen some success had he gone about it what I would consider the right way. So I agree with this take. I think Kickstarter projects or any projects need to have a very focused direction, a very focused vision, and they need to stick to that vision until it's done. Obviously, changes are going to have to happen depending on the development cycle, but there needs to be a grounded direction, and especially in creative projects.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you
No,
want to
no.
go, Gunnar? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go.
Mm.
Well, first off, I hope I'm coming through well. I changed my battery and whatnot, so hopefully no more technical difficulties. But we'll see. I'll be quick. Kong mentioned the most obvious and most well-known version of Kickstarters going awry. Uh, I think that's just the dice you roll with Kickstarters in general, and it can be some Kickstarters they miss the trees for the forest, so they have all these aspirations, and they have all these this is what my thing will look like in the future, but they fail to achieve the immediate future of producing a thing. And so it's always a gamble when you go into kickstarting and you throw your money in. It's gambling, and it's kind of worse than going to Vegas in my, because if you lose, you lose. But yeah, no, TLDR, I have to agree with this. A lot of them lose sight of what's the point of a Kickstarter, which at its core, I think Kickstarters, it's cool. You like the idea of people funding a project they believe in, that project becoming a reality, but doesn't always pan out.
I was gonna. I obviously, at least three of us right now agrees with this because I sat with Kong and saw how excited he was with Mighty Number Nine and how much effort that he put in. Because it doesn't really matter if you put in $5, if you put in $10, if you put in $20 into a Kickstarter project. As a consumer, you are expecting to be delivered or for it to be delivered. And while you can't satisfy everyone, because I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there who thinks Mighty Number Nine is a great game. I don't know, maybe just two people, but still somebody. It's still a disappointment when
It's I at best.
That's kind of the
um,
incentive I got from
right.
yeah.
So his Kong's experience with Mighty Number Nine has educated me on not supporting Kickstarter projects. So moving forward from watching his experience, I do not support Kickstarter projects. It may sound cynical or crude, but I'm sorry, that's just the mindset that I have to take on, so I don't go throwing away my money. However, while this is not technically a Kickstarter project, I felt like that's what Street Fighter Cross Tekken went through, where when the game was first announced and the game was first advertised, I thought I was getting a very straightforward fighting game between the Street Fighter cast, Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li, versus the Tekken cast, Kazuya, Jin, Nina. I thought that's what I was getting. And as the game came out, or they started to produce more of the game, they added in DLC gems. They added in the Pandora mechanic. They changed it from killing two characters to killing one character. They increased damage. They drop damage. The whole game, to me, when Street Fighter Cross Tekken came out, I guess me as a consumer had, from what they first showed, I thought that's what I was getting. And then by the time the game came out, what I got to me was a clusterfuck of just characters that I like. That's what I felt with Street Fighter Cross Tekken. And while it's not technically a Kickstarter project, because I didn't put any money as a consumer to help support it, or it didn't go through a beta run for years and years, it still did not present to me on its final product. I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, because I
Well, it's
felt
relative. It wasn't a Kickstarter, but it was relative because it's
yeah,
scope creep is basically like losing focus. That's my understanding of it.
yeah,
And so they lost focus on what the game was supposed to be, at least from our perceived perceptions from that first initial advertisement, or it was just
mhm,
straight up false advertising. Like it was one or
mhm,
the other.
yeah. It did not. It didn't. I think they added in way too much in Street Fighter Cross Tekken. There's too much in it, and from that, the game just ended up not being on par with what I know Capcom can develop into a fighting game. So that's my experience with what is considered Kickstarter. But I definitely learned my lesson with Kong's experience.
Got you. So, while you guys were, discussing your takes on this particular topic, I had to look up what scope creep meant because I wasn't too sure, and I see two definitions. So, scope creep is the uncontrolled expansion of a project's scope, often involving the addition of new features, tasks, or deliverables beyond the initial agreed upon plan. And then the next one, which kind of falls under what you guys were saying, scope creep, sometimes known as requirement creep or even feature creep, refers to how a project's requirements increase over the project's life cycle. So the first one I was looking at the word uncontrolled, right? Uncontrolled expansion, which I guess could mean a variety of things. It could mean, the amount of people needed to put the game into fruition. Um, it could mean, certain mechanics that are needed in order to have the game function properly. It could probably even mean like software. I'm not sure what engine.
It could also mean like managerial demands, like, or
Yeah.
investor demand, like the
Hmm.
investors or the project heads want, they see new trends, and we see this now. They see new trends in the market, and you're working on a project that isn't trending to whatever the new trend is, and it's like, oh well, free to play games are real hot right now, so make this a free to play game. And it's like, well, we're making a single player RPG,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right? And so that could be scope creep as well, where they're taking a project out of the scope of what it was supposed to be to fit the demands of whatever the market conditions are. So it could
Remember,
be that
Fuse went through that.
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Hmm.
So, so basically, again, I had to look that up to get a better understanding, and I definitely agree with the take that scope creep kills them. I kind of fall into the side with Wolf's Point because I've never backed a Kickstarter. Um, it wasn't due to the fact that Kong's experience kind of deterred me from it. It was more so that I didn't really see anything that I really wanted to kind of put my coins in per se. That really gave me like an incentive to. Now, don't get me wrong. There were some interesting things, but it wasn't to a point where it's like, I want to, back it. But I do. I have experienced games like you guys mentioned, Fuse, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where the game has looked a certain type of way and then transitioned into something else. So I fall into that same vein, that same category. Yeah, there was one. I believe it was called Killzone. I think it was specifically Killzone 2 when they showcased it, and it was such an elaborate like theatrical game. It was supposed to be the gameplay where they were flying on a ship. It was either Killzone 2 or 3, and then the ship.
It was 2. Yeah, it was 2.
Okay. And they were like crashing because they was getting shot out of the sky, and then
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that was all cinematic.
It was all cinematic, but it was during the time where we couldn't really differentiate between the two, or we kind of got duped. Where it was like,
and they weren't very honest about it either.
Exactly. So it went from that to like they were driving, and then like you were controlling the gun. Well, not you, but whoever was playing it, quote unquote, was controlling the gun turrets and shooting things out the sky. And then the AI was so spot on. You was getting a lot of assistance from different troops and whatnot. The last thing I remember was one of your squad mates passed you like a rocket launcher to shoot something out the sky. But then when I played that game, it was a completely different experience. It wasn't a bad experience per se, like the final product being what it was, but it wasn't what I was anticipating. So I'm pretty sure with a game that grandiose for its time and what they were trying to accomplish and what they were trying to deliver, I'm sure there was like quite a few scope creeps that was implemented to make the game what it was. Hell, there probably was some. I guess scope creep can also be something that they decide to take away from the overall project. It's like, well, guys, this is too ambitious. We need to like kind of pull away to make this game what it is, or like due to time constraints. Kind
of like The Division.
Yeah, pretty much like The Division.
That was another one.
Exactly, The Division.
Oh man, that's such a highly anticipated game, and it kind of resorted.
I mean, it's still that game, like you said, it did turn out all right, enough to get a sequel, which also did all right. But what they showed in its E3 back when E3 existed, its presentation to what we got, vastly different. Same with Watch Dogs. Funny enough, both Ubisoft. But yeah, my last take would be it's like pre-ordering a game. It's like pre-ordering the collector's edition of a game after watching one cinematic trailer of it at the Game Awards. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know what the game is. It might completely change, but you already dropped 120 on the collectors. That's kind of what Kickstarter is.
But the thing is about Kickstarter, and correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why people are more inclined to backing projects is because it appears that usually with Kickstarters, it's typically a small studio or a small team of people who gets the ideals of what gamers really want or anticipating, and they kind of fall more in line to like, okay, this is what an actual game is, versus like the AAA titles where you don't know what you're gonna get. They're just gonna give you slop one day, and then they're gonna give you something good to follow. Like, it's like a mixed bag with AAA titles, and they already have like established money to generate their game. Is that what it is, or like?
Well, the idea behind Kickstarter is just simple. Like, I think Kickstarter is a good thing. I'm not against it. It's existing. The problem with Kickstarter is that people who are investing into a project need to understand that that's exactly what it is. It's an investment
Yeah.
Yeah.
that could turn out to be nothing. Because I've added, I've told the story before. I did another Kickstarter for another game that was being produced by somebody I actually knew, and it looked cool. And I was like, "Oh, that looks like a great project." And I threw $10 at it because they were asking for help, and I was like, "Well, I kind of want to see this project come to life." And
Mm-hmm.
I threw
Hmm.
$10 at it, and the project never seen the light of day. And that's I was disappointed. I wasn't upset. I was disappointed. But like
To me, that's a scam.
it can be a scam. But like investing
Mhm.
isn't guaranteed. You're guaranteed
Yeah.
No,
nothing,
it's not. Yeah, you're right.
right?
You're
And
right.
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
is that a scam? I don't think so. Like if I was opening a restaurant and I asked you guys to invest into my idea,
Mm.
and it flopped for whatever reason, market conditions, or I didn't execute it properly. Nobody
Mm.
forced you to invest. You invested because you thought you either believed in me, you believed in the idea, or you thought that
Mm.
this was a good way to turn around that $10,000 into a $20,000 like whatever that
Mhm.
return on investment you thought you were investing in. It just didn't pan out that way, and so Kickstarter is just that. And Kickstarter is just a downsized version of what actually happens in the industry, where big wealthy people or wealthy institutions invest into projects that the game studios, they take their money and they go, okay, well, in 2 years we're going to have this product for you, and we're going to release it into the market, and this is the projected sales, and this would be your cut if we hit projected sales, and obviously that cut would be
Mhm.
higher if we if we if we
So,
outperform that projected sale. So
mhm.
that's what Kickstarter is. It's just a means for poor people to invest into projects that nobody else has any faith in.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
That makes
And the
sense.
gamble that you may invest in a particular Kickstarter and it becomes the next big mega hit. Like maybe in an alternate world, Mighty Number Nine overthrows Mega Man as the lead side-scrolling game. That's the gamble you take with that kind of,
Mm.
with Kickstarter.
Yeah. So the only positive thing that you get back is potentially whatever you're investing in comes to fruition. Because I don't think you get any like money incentives, or it's just more
No.
of
No,
just
no,
okay.
you're funding the project in hopes that you get to experience whatever product this is,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and you get to
Okay.
see it come to life because nobody else is
Mhm.
investing into it. And so this
Mhm.
is a way for creators to reach out to fans of a IP or a product and ask for donations effectively in order to fund this project, because nothing is free in life. And if you as a consumer or as a fan, you believe in this person or you believe in this project,
Mhm.
then it's an opportunity to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say about this is I don't know if I told the story or not, but it's a short one. The reason why I invested into the Mighty Number Nine Kickstarter was because after Kenji was terminated from Capcom or left Capcom, whatever happened, his project of the Mega Man Legends 3 project was canceled, and that was his baby. And I was really looking forward to Mega Man Legends 3, which was supposed to come out for the 3DS. There was actually supposed to be a demo released on the eShop back then, and it never came out. And so I felt partially responsible, which I know sounds ridiculous, but I felt guilty for Mega Man Legends 3 being canceled, because what Capcom was doing at the time is that they had a website dedicated to fan submissions. So you could submit art, you could submit script ideas, you could submit whatever in order
Mhm.
to see if they see something good and they can implement it into the game. It was a way for like the community and the fans to kind of have a hand in the creation of Legends 3. And so I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I was really motivated to contribute ideas and whatever, but I didn't because I selfishly didn't want to know too much about the game before it came out. So I was like, I'm not going to contribute to anything because I want to be surprised and I want to experience everything with fresh eyes whenever the game comes out. And I was convinced that the game would at least see a release. Um, and so after everything happened, and he came out with his new company and he had this new idea for this new game, I was like, okay, I didn't contribute for Legends 3, but I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is on this project because I feel partially responsible for the. I mean, obviously, in alternate universe, if I contributed art, it would have canceled anyway. I know that, but I felt like a weird obligation as a fan of the Mega Man universe to contribute something to like the potential successor of Mega Man. So that's why I did it, and I don't regret it because at the end of the day, I think I invested like 50 or $60. It wasn't anything crazy, but like it was a good life lesson, and you learn best when you're in the fucking driver's seat, like when you're actually when it's your money, when it's you got skin in the game. That's where you leave with lessons, and so that life lesson was a life lesson in investing 101, and so that and I carry that with me through life. And if I decide to make investments in the future into a business or into an idea or whatever, that's going to be in the back of my mind. It might seem silly because it's a video game, but like that's a real, I lost money on that, right? And that sucked, right? And so that's going to inform my future decisions as far as what I invest my money into in the future, whether that be stocks or businesses or whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely not silly
Makes
at all.
sense.
It was like a tricycle experience versus you riding an actual bike. You got the training wheels off when you actually do
Right.
decide to
I'd rather
invest.
lose $50 10 years ago or whenever it was than lose 10,000 or
That's a
$15,000
big
10 years from
difference.
now.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
you're right on the training wheels thing. So anyway, we've harped on that topic enough. Let's see what our next one is.
Look away from the spinning.
Yeah. Nostalgia is the most powerful marketing tool in gaming. 100% correct.
1000%.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why they keep remaking things and remaking things.
I
and
mean,
movies.
one company, Nintendo, like.
fucking all of them at this point.
If nostalgia, if Nintendo could patent nostalgia, they would. That's what that's their thing.
I wouldn't be
that's
shocked
their
if they
shtick.
tried, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, with the way they are. Like, bro, hell, look. As of the filming of this, I'm getting ready to buy Final Fantasy PlayStation 5. That's a game that came out in the 90s. I'm buying it again. Why? Because it's my favorite game, and I have a ton of nostalgia for that game. And I bought a bunch of remakes for the same reason. So, yes. Just
Yeah,
This is the easiest one by far.
it really is.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
There's
because
nothing to explain.
Yeah,
It is,
there's no
yes.
reason to
It
explain this,
is
right.
so
Yeah.
on the nose, and it's so obvious. It's painfully obvious.
Yes.
So, anybody before I spin again,
No, spin
No.
away, sir.
we're good to spin, right? Okay. That's what I figured. All right.
That's
No
why I
repeats,
can't give
no
it a
repeats.
Charizard.
Leave Charizard alone, bro.
Exactly.
Oh,
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 look.
so good. He came back again.
See, nostalgic. It was-
I was so nostalgic for that choice.
It'd be funny if he came back again.
Oh. Oh shit! Wait a minute. There's a glitch in the matrix.
Esoteric, shut the hell up. Don't say anything. let the wheel do what it's supposed to do. Don't you dare, because it's orange.
Is that it again? Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
here we go.
Story spoilers aren't the end of the
Ooh.
world.
Oh.
Okay,
mm,
I got
mm.
opinions on this one.
Me too.
Alright, so
Me too.
should I start? Or y'all
Yeah,
wanna
yeah, yeah.
start?
We go down the line.
Yeah.
So I agree that it is not the end of the world. However, that's some dickhead shit to do. That's
Yeah.
my opinion.
I agree that it's not the end of the world, but at the same time, just respect the person who doesn't want it spoiled for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Mm.
so I'll quickly go. Yeah, it's I've had it done for me a couple times. Sometimes I've done it to myself because I'm the type of guy that I'll look up a bunch of information on a game instead of just playing the fucking video game. I don't know, it's
Mhm.
terminal. I can't help myself. And I'll accidentally like, oh, the final boss is this dude. It's like, ah, fuck. All right, well, now I know who the final boss is. Whatever. It doesn't make me throw the game out, but
Honestly, that's what happened to me playing Star Ocean before, I was looking at like
Stupid
how to
ass
best
game.
build the characters and everything, and I ended up spoiling it for myself that FaZe was the he's a boss. I don't know if I don't remember if he's the final boss,
I
but
don't
he's the
remember. It's
boss.
been a
Yes,
hot minute.
he's the
Yeah.
Right.
he's the final
He's the
boss.
final. So that you lose him, and the moment the moment I read that sentence on GameFAQs, I was like, oh well, fuck it. I
Well,
dropped him.
I ain't invested shit in you. You ain't getting no new weapon.
You're not getting anything from me. And I dropped him as a character, and I just use all the other characters. So when FaZe left my party, it was like, okay, and my party is established.
I'll see you later. I'll fuck your ass up.
So it saved me. But then there's other story spoilers that's like, I didn't want that spoiled for me, that of video games that I've played before. But I was just like, okay, shoulder shrug, keep it moving.
Yeah. I mean, but if you do it on purpose, like to get a rise out of people, you're a cunt. And I
Yeah.
mean, there are worse tragedies in the world, but like if you stub your and it hurts and you get a black and blue, that's kind of what you get. That's like,
Yeah.
low stakes,
Right.
low stakes karma here.
Okay, so I guess I'm on the other side of the fence with this one. Now, objectively speaking, stories are not what makes games. Like, it's the gameplay, it's the mechanics. That's what really makes. That is pretty much the main ingredients of a good game, in my opinion. If those are good, the game is good. The experience is good. Now, one of the ingredients that I do enjoy personally when I play games are stories. I like going through the motions of playing a good game and enjoying a good story along with it. Because Lord knows nowadays a lot of shows ain't shit. It's garbage story. There's nothing really to watch, on these streamlined shows or whatever, streamlined platforms. So sometimes, having a good game in conjunction with a good story is really good, right? See now, and it also gives you a genuine experience as well. Like, for example, unlike Wolf, who knew preemptively that FaZe wasn't going to be a part of the team, he was actually going to be the boss. My experience was a bit different because I did not know much about the game. So I
Sucker.
realized at an early time that, okay, FaZe stats is really good. And it wasn't me thinking, because typically when you get a character, especially in an RPG that has really good stats, it's either the main character or it's another character that's just like that just excels in almost every aspect and makes the game, if you know what you're doing, that much more easily to like navigate through. I wasn't thinking, and then along those times, that I also want to add before I get to the other point is that we were past, at least I thought we were past the time of you losing a character that becomes later an enemy or whatnot, because that happens a lot in previous RPG games. So I was just thinking like, oh, it's just one of those characters where like, okay, he really excels. Let me put down Limo or whatever the little girl name was, and let me
You dropped limo
let me
for
put on
FaZe?
FaZe.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna keep
You're
myself
bad.
quiet. All right, sorry.
What FaZe was the better option at that time, was he not?
No.
Well, what
FaZe
about
was the
limo?
better
Was it a
option.
stretch limo or like
FaZe is limo, and FaZe was a better option on face value. Limo was the better option in the long run.
Yeah, she was a long
Yeah,
game.
but you didn't find
Right?
that
She
you
was
did
a
not.
long game investment.
I understand that now, because here's the thing, you basically I could not figure that out because of
Because you wanted to follow the story.
no, it
And that's
wasn't.
what you got. You
No, no, no,
lost
no, no,
one of
no,
your
no, no,
best
no, 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 no.
characters.
Well, listen, a part of my experience when it comes to playing games that I enjoy is not knowing things. I want to like that's why I play games like Elden Ring and the other Souls game blind, because I want to have that full experience. I want to be able to be fully immersed, fully enthralled in the game that I'm playing. And nowadays there aren't a lot of games that do that, except for the most part, RPGs. RPGs usually have a strong focal point when it comes to the story, because the mechanics are relatively easy to utilize. And what I mean by that is in terms of like, if it's turn based, it's easy to like do like, oh, press A to activate this, press B to cancel. I'm not talking about like other strenuous games where it's like, like you're playing God of War and you have to like have button combinations in order to do certain move skills or and things like that. So yeah, playing an RPG, the story kind of ties into you know the overall enjoyment of the game for me. So
Well, yeah, because RPGs are I'm gonna say it's the second most leading aspect to the art to RPG, Japanese RPG games.
mhm.
Um, behind the gameplay, it's definitely like the purpose of the RPG, a Japanese RPG, anyways, is the story, is the depth behind the characters. Like, I know some things in Persona 4 was spoiled for me before I played Persona 4, and it was disappointing because it's a heavily driven
Yeah.
story based game.
Yeah.
So I understand your point in that. I'm just surprised you dropped the little girl for a phase, but okay. All right.
Well, again, not knowing, because honestly speaking,
Yeah,
her
that's like watching a show or something like a narrative TV show, and like you see the perspective of all the characters, but you see like the main character fall into a trap that you know is a trap, but you only
Hmm.
know that because you're watching from like this, fly on the wall perspective where you're seeing everything go
Mm-hmm.
down.
yeah.
Of course
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna like, well, it's a trap, dumbass. It's like, well, the character doesn't know that. So
Yeah.
Eric doesn't
Mm.
know that FaZe is gonna betray him. But I would argue that he probably had a more impactful experience with the game's narrative than you did, and than
Yes.
Gunnar did, because he had to experience that from a very legitimate
Yeah.
standpoint.
Yeah,
Where
Yeah,
he
I know.
got betrayed.
and then
A
more
few
so to
curse
add to
words at
that,
the end. Yeah.
and then more so to add to that, it was like the fact that I invested into this character. So it's like it also had like an emotional perspective for me, like more of an emotional standpoint, because it was like, okay, I invested all this time in this character, and not only did he leave, because typically in RPGs as well, those characters do come back. It's like, oh, I went on some journey of discovery, and then they come back learning some new skills, and they're at like a higher level than when you left them.
And the
No,
motherfucker took all his equipment.
he took all the equipment and he became the villain. So it became more of an incentive for me to beat his ass, and I was like so locked into the fight, because it was at that point, it wasn't about the characters overcoming what they were, beating him. It was me wanting to whip his ass. It was
Mm.
about me. It was all about me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I went with Limu, I went with Raimi, I went with Edge, and then I went with Bacchus, and we destroyed his ass. And I felt that the story was better after that. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
good in the game. It does affect.
but
Go ahead.
no, just one
Sorry.
real quick thing. It just might be slightly different, but when I used to play Final Fantasy 14 heavily, I had randoms, people I didn't know in like my guild or anything, that would like get kind of upset if I would explain like boss mechanics to them. They would consider that a spoiler, and that kind of gave me like a crash course. And some people really care about that, because for me, if I want to beat this fight, I want you to tell me what mechanics to look out for. It's gonna do this. It has an AOE. It has an unblockable. I want to know that. But some people consider that spoilers, even though it's not a story spoiler. They consider it a spoiler, and I kind of learned real quick. Some people get really hostile when you quote unquote spoil that for them. So
So,
that's like a little aside, but it was an eye-opening
well, I,
experience for
I
me.
can I can understand where that constitute as a spoiler, because and it's not even just a story spoiler, it's a gameplay spoiler, right? So I can understand their disdain for people, giving them information on it. However, you are playing a game that relies heavily on team-based skill. Like everybody has to be in sync, everybody has to know their roles, and everybody have to watch out for certain things. I don't want to sit here paying $20 a month watching you die because you want to experience the full scope of the game. No, I'm going to tell you what the hell happens, because you're pretty much joining our link shell or whatever the hell it's called, just so you can overcome this obstacle. If that's the case, play with some brand new people by yourselves and y'all figure that shit out by yourself. But
It
I
was
don't.
usually when like a new patch would drop and a new dungeon would drop. They would have new bosses with different mechanics. And obviously, if you're doing it random, some guy, the chances of you, especially as the patch wears on, like on day 1, everyone's new.
Yeah.
So everybody doesn't know. But like on day 5, most people have already experienced the dungeon.
Yeah.
And if you're the guy on day 5 that hasn't, it's like, oh, I can't believe you spoiled Avengers Endgame for me. Like, bro, I mean, you're a little late to the party. So can you get really mad about it? But no, people, as far as like yelling on a keyboard would go, people would get upset, and then some people would just leave. I'm like, damn, bro, all right, shit. I don't
Yeah.
want to sit here 20 minutes because you want to fucking figure it out and become the main character you were meant to be when I can just tell you, oh, move, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it on from both points, but I side more with the point of like, yo, we've been playing this for a while. These MMOs can be very grind heavy, and we're paying on a monthly basis. So I want to allocate as much time as possible into fulfilling everything I need to fulfill, so that I don't have to worry about it later. So yeah, you can miss me with that bullshit. Watch play by, well, you can't even play by yourself, but you just got to deal with it. That's the lay of the land. That's it.
It's the nature of the beast, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, but very eye-opening experience. I just wanted to put it in there.
yeah. Okay, we
I mean,
are.
I get it, but do we have time for one more? Or are we done?
I mean, we're at 56 minutes, but I want to do one more just for the hell of it.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right,
Yeah, let's do it.
the last spin to win.
Nostalgia is.
Oh my god, get this man out of here. Get him out of here. He's
Stop
bad.
talking.
Get him out of here.
Fuck.
I need to play Lotto.
Well, you're
You ever see
using
that
it up on
episode?
this.
Oh, hold on, I'm gonna wait for the. This better not be fucking nostalgia. All right, gaming personalities matter more than gameplay and streams. I can't
Depends.
say I disagree. I'm gonna agree. I think gaming personalities do matter more than gameplay on streams.
Well,
think
man.
so.
You're talking about how the person reacts to the game while they're playing the stream.
Yeah, like their personality carries more water, entertainment value wise, than the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
I have to agree.
I think that's why most people watch certain streamers, just because of their
Oh, yeah,
personality.
yeah.
100%. That's why I agree with this.
And that's why
statement.
these little
Although-
kids. Mhm.
Although I would say there's some games that I watch for the gameplay, and like the streamer personality means nothing to me. So, but it depends on like, why am I watching this?
Mm.
But if we're just talking about streamers, I think most cases the personality of the person is more important than whatever's happening on the game itself.
The actual.
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah, because I was
Okay,
gonna
okay.
add to your point, Kong, that like you might be watching a particular streamer for a particular game and you don't care about that streamer. However, your retention kind of lies with the streamer who you find appealing and funny and engaging. So you'll more likely go back to their streams as opposed to the person who's just playing a game that just happened to catch your interest. So
Yeah, I think it kind of for me, my personal take is it depends on what you're watching it for, which you guys kind of stated already. Like if I'm watching a tournament player for League of Legends or something, most of those guys are pretty dry. Like if you watch some of their live streams, it's just stone-faced playing. You're watching that guy because he's like the top 5 jungler in North America. That's what you're watching him for. Whereas if you're watching like a VTuber, or you're watching a kind of like it's a popular streamer, like if you're watching
Corey
Maximilian,
Kenshin.
yeah, you're watching them because I like watching you. I find you funny or entertaining or calming or whatever the criteria is. And they could be, I'm watching it because she or he is funny and they're playing Elden, so that makes a good combination. Like what kind of, is she gonna spaz out when Margit gives her the business or what? So yeah, it's just to me it depends on what you're watching, but I would generally agree. For a large part of the streaming world, it's more about the personality than how good they are at the particular game they're playing.
Yeah, I would have to agree with the take as well. There's three, in my opinion, there are three types of streamers. There are ones who are like super adept in the game that they're playing, so their personality kind of falls through the cracks, or it can fall through the cracks because you're watching skilled gameplay. There's the informative streamer who's giving you insight on various topics. It could be about the game, it could be about life lessons, it could be about a plethora of different topics. And then you have the funny streamer who it doesn't matter if the game is on or they're just doing a just chatting stream.
I was
They're-
gonna say just chatting.
yeah, they're hilarious beyond all get out, and they capture the audience with just their
Or-
words.
Or there's some hot chick in a short top,
Well,
and they get their pull.
yeah. She's
So it
got
all
the
goes. It doesn't
know.
really go back to the video game. It goes back to the person behind the controller.
yeah. She happens to be sitting on a see-through chair, all oiled up in a thong, but I'm
Yeah.
watching her for her personality.
Her
That's for sure.
personality is literally her boobs.
Yeah.
That's it. And there are people that we've all encountered, I'm sure, where their personality is tied and can be defined by their appearance.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just say
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I was gonna say before this prompt, if you ever like I occasionally watch like old Yu-Gi-Oh episodes, and like one of my favorite episodes is where Yugi fights Panic and
Me
Yugi
too.
plays Swords of Revealing Light. I love that episode. The shit talking is top tier.
It's top tier. Yeah. Oh
It's
my!
so
I'm not
fucking
the
good.
only one. I'm not the
I-
only one then.
bro.
Okay. Okay.
Blustering embattlement. I was like, what is that? What does that mean? Of course, I now know what it means, but like, yeah. Anyways, so me looking at this wheel spinning, it just reminds me of like that part where Yugi played Swords of Revealing Light, and Panic goes, "I can't stand the light," like sprinting away. So anyway, that's I
It
wanted to
was
share that. 'cause
it was
I
kind
thought it
of
was
cheap though, because it was like, oh, now that my Swords of Revealing Light is going to be done, it ends my turn,
Your
and you're
castle is gonna fall on your monsters. This is
And they
funny.
can't escape because the magic card I played to increase their defense somehow entraps them into this.
Entraps them for
And for some reason, when your monster destroys your own monsters, you lose the life points, even though I didn't declare an attack. It's like, yeah, okay,
We just freeballing out here. It's just-
Ah,
sure, whatever you
it's-
say,
It's
Yu-Gi-Oh.
hilarious.
But
Mhm.
in any case, that is our
Mhm.
episode. If you want to see us talk about more Yu-Gi-Oh or other things like the various prompts, we do streams like this every single week. They publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Check out the other channel, the main channel. It'll be linked in the description for other content. So Mr. Esoteric, he does unboxing videos and opinion pieces, things like this. This particular channel is specifically just for the hour-long podcast. So definitely give that a look. Check the description for our social media links. So we have a Facebook, a Twitter, Instagram, Discord. What's the other one?
TikTok. I think you
TikTok. That's the other one. TikTok. I don't use TikTok. That's why I always forget about it. And then also check out Mr. Esoteric on Twitch. He streams 2 to 3 times a week. He streams every Monday and Wednesday. Monday, it used to be Wednesdays. Monday
Yeah.
and Friday, usually about 10 p.m. So definitely check him out there. He streams a variety of different games, party games, modern AAA slop. He plays retro games. He plays it all. He is not
Wow.
prejudiced.
AAA slop. Jesus Christ.
I mean,
You did play Horizon 2 on stream. You did play
But he
Assassin's Creed
I
spent it
Shadows.
mean,
so
Horizon
casually,
2
like,
wasn't
that's an actual
bad.
category.
Brother,
Horizon 2 was not bad.
I
I
have
can
not-
say with full honesty that I only ever watched the gameplay for you. I for sure
Yeah,
did not watch.
you're one
that
of the
shit for
personalities.
gameplay. So- Because and even with you playing, I still fell asleep watching the stream. So, and it was because of you. It was because that game was boring. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the content. Subscribe, like, comment, and we'll see you next week for next week's episode, whatever that ends up being. Peace.
Till next time.
Take care.